The discovery of Ebby Steppach's remains in the drainage pipe was only the beginning. The moment investigators realized she had been there all along, questions multiplied faster than answers. The first question, of course, was how this location, the very place where a car had been found years earlier, had been missed in previous searches. It was not hidden miles away. It was under the park, in a pipe that was narrow but not impossible to enter. How could law enforcement volunteers and search parties all overlook it? Was it simply human error? Or was there something about that night that no one knew? From the moment she disappeared, Ebby's movements had been a mystery. Who was she with? Where did she go immediately after leaving her car? Cell phone records, which should have provided clarity, only deepened confusion. There were gaps, short periods of unaccounted time that could not be explained. Investigators pored over every detail, every tip, every report, trying to reconstruct the timeline, but the picture remained fragmented. Ebby had been a quiet young woman, and the people closest to her painted a portrait of someone careful and aware, not reckless or willing to wander into danger. That meant someone else may have been involved. The possibility of a stranger encountering her that night existed, but investigators also considered that Ebby might have known the person she met, perhaps someone she trusted, someone whose intentions were darker than they appeared. The pipe itself became a point of intense scrutiny. Investigators examined the physical space, its size, its accessibility, its drainage patterns. They tried to determine whether Ebby had entered voluntarily, been forced, or moved posthumously by another party. The conclusions were inconclusive. Experts debated whether the body could have been carried, or if it had arrived there naturally. Every theory raised more questions than answers. Family and friends became central to the investigation, not because of suspicion, but because of context. Who had regular contact with Ebby? Who knew about her plans that night? Who had access to her life in ways that outsiders didn't? Law enforcement quietly interviewed acquaintances, peers, and anyone who had interacted with her recently. The answers were sometimes vague, sometimes contradictory, and sometimes raised more alarms than comforted the investigators. Then there was the matter of the last person who saw her alive. Witness reports, although scarce, suggested that Ebby had planned to meet someone. Who that person was, and why, remains undisclosed publicly. This person's statements, timeline, and whereabouts became critical. Investigators wanted to know everything. What was said, what was done, and what could be corroborated by phone records or digital evidence. And yet, publicly, this crucial piece of the puzzle remained a void. Forensic evidence offered fragments of insight, but little resolution. Clothing, personal items, and environmental traces told a story of movement and time, but did not identify a perpetrator. The skeletal remains provided limited clues to cause of death, and while homicide was confirmed, the details that might reveal exactly how or when Ebby died were lost to time and circumstance. Social media and public interest added pressure. Speculation ran rampant online. Some theories were plausible, others wild. Detectives had to separate what was verifiable from what was conjecture. But the fact remained. Someone out there knew something. Maybe a neighbor, a friend, someone she had trusted, and that knowledge had never fully come to light. Investigators also reviewed earlier police reports for missed opportunities. Were there errors in the initial search? Was the pipe checked thoroughly? Could the first teams have overlooked signs that would have prevented her body from remaining undiscovered for 3 years? These questions haunted law enforcement, and yet the answers were elusive. Every error or gap, intentional or not, became a critical piece of the puzzle, one that might explain why justice had not yet been served. As attention turned to motive, investigators considered various scenarios. Was this an opportunistic crime? A targeted act? Was there someone with grudge? Or was this a random tragedy? Each hypothesis carried implications, but none could be verified. Evidence that could have provided clarity had either been degraded, missed, or never documented in ways that could withstand scrutiny. Over the years, detectives quietly followed leads, many of which never made it to public. Anonymous tips, conflicting eyewitness accounts, and vague digital trails were pieced together in case files, yet none produced the breakthrough needed to close the case. Every avenue seemed to circle back to the same problem: gaps in time, missing information, and the unresolved question of who had last seen Ebby alive. Community interest never waned. People continued to share posts, remember anniversaries, and speculate on forums. Every detail, no matter how small, was analyzed, debated, and retold. The public fascination with this unsolved mystery, particularly the bizarre location of the discovery, ensured that the case stayed alive, both in memory and online conversation. For the family, every unanswered question was a wound that refused to heal. The pipe where Ebby was found was more than just a location. It was a symbol of the missing answers, the unexplored hours, the decisions that led to tragedy. Why had no one found her sooner? Why had the truth been so delayed? And most importantly, who had been involved in her final hours? In this part of the investigation, the trail leads to persons of interest whose identities, while not confirmed publicly, have been discussed among law enforcement circles. Their movements, alibis, and potential involvement provide pieces to a puzzle that remains incomplete. Some are innocent, others may hold key answers, but the public may never know without a breakthrough or confession. Then there are the unanswered technical questions. Phone activity, social media messages, and the small but critical details of the day she disappeared. Experts debated how each factor could have influenced what happened. Some believe a misstep in timing or location contributed. Others suspect deliberate concealment. And every expert agrees on one point. The truth is buried in the moments no one saw. As the investigation deepens, several theories emerge. One suggests she may have voluntarily gone somewhere, thinking she was meeting someone she trusted, only for events to spiral beyond her control. Another theory posits a stranger intervened, using knowledge of her routines to commit a crime. A third theory considers accidental factors combined with delayed discovery, the pipe being inaccessible and overlooked for years, creating an almost impossibly tragic scenario. Each theory raises as many questions as it answers. Investigators must decide which leads are credible, which are worth pursuing, and which are dead ends. The pressure to solve the case intensifies with every passing year. But time is both ally and enemy. It allows new forensic techniques, but erases memories, damages evidence, and clouds clarity. One of the most chilling aspects of the case remains what we cannot see. The pipe, the park, the surrounding area. Each element may hold subtle clues, marks, or traces that hint at her final movements. Yet, without eyewitnesses or definitive physical evidence, investigators are forced to rely on reconstruction, supposition, and the rare hint dropped by a witness or a tipster. Every small discovery is monumental. Every gap is maddening. As investigators reanalyze the case files, they noted inconsistencies in timelines, questions about who saw her and when, and conflicting reports that have never been fully resolved. These gaps point to one uncomfortable truth. The full story of Ebby Steppach's final hours remains untold. Even after discovery, the narrative is incomplete, leaving both law enforcement and the public with fragments, not clarity. What is known is this: the person who saw her last, the route she took to the pipe, and the circumstances surrounding her death are all still critical unknowns. Law enforcement continues to search for leads, but the trail is cold in the public eye. And yet, the mystery remains alive for those who follow every detail, speculate about every timeline, and question every official report. Community discussion has also highlighted what many feel are overlooked pieces of evidence. Tiny details that could have shifted the investigation years ago. Whether it's footprints near the pipe, the location of her personal items, or patterns in her communications, these minute clues could form the backbone of the story that finally explains the unexplainable. Investigators, however, have been discreet, releasing only what is safe and verified, keeping the rest internal for investigative integrity. As the case continues to draw attention, the chilling reality remains. Ebby Steppach's disappearance and death are not fully explained. There are names investigators have looked into, conversations that may never be shared publicly, and timelines that will always contain gaps. For the family, these gaps are unbearable. For the public, they are haunting. For investigators, they are the puzzle they cannot yet complete. Even now, years after her body was found, the case offers new lessons in persistence, forensic scrutiny, and the cold challenge of unsolved crime. It reminds everyone that disappearance can be silent, discovery can be delayed, and the truth can remain elusive. Ebby Steppach's story is a tragedy, a mystery, and a cautionary tale, a reminder that some cases refuse to be closed until the full picture emerges. And though we may never know everything, there is one undeniable fact. The questions remain. Who did she meet? Why was the pipe missed? How did this happen in the moments no one saw? And the answer, when it comes, could change everything we thought we knew about that night. Because even in the darkest corners of the investigation, one thing is clear. Every unsolved mystery carries the seeds of revelation. And in Ebby Steppach's case, the next breakthrough could be just around the corner, if the right piece of the puzzle finally surfaces. The case is still open. The investigation continues quietly, with leads that may never see the light of day, names that may never be revealed, and details that could rewrite the story entirely. And while we know what happened to Ebby in the pipe, the truth of who, how, and why is still locked away, waiting for the next breakthrough, the next witness, the next clue that might finally answer the questions no one has dared to solve. Because in a case like this, closure is not given. It is earned, and the truth is never as simple as it seems. See you in our next episode.